Number one, 3 times the complement of an angle is 40 more than the supplement of the angle. How do you show complement? 90 minus C. 90 minus X or C or A or whatever you want your angle to represent. Supplement is 180 minus X. Some of you, when I was looking at them, you were asking yesterday, you were switching the number and the variable around, or you were adding in there. 40 greater means you add 40. Then you just solve. Use the distributive property, which don't forget to distribute the 3 to the X. Move your 3X over, making it 2X, if that's okay if I just mentally do that. 50 and then divide by 2, so X should be 25. Number 11. You have 2 right triangles. You have a large one, then you have a small one. Within those right triangles, you have the hypotenuse of the large one is B and C. This is A, 2, 4, and 3. So if you draw your 2 triangles, yep, and this is B plus C. But if you look at the small triangle, you have 3, 4. You could do Pythagorean theorem or recognize it's a 3, 4, 5 triangle. So we know that C has a value of 5, so I'm just going to go ahead, replace this with 5. I'll do this. All right, to find A, I would set up a proportion between your 2 triangles. So if you set up your proportion between your 2 triangles, you have A over 6 is equal to 3 over 4. You cross multiply, and you end up with A being equal to 9 halves.
Are you going to take half the point off if you don't reduce it?
Maybe. When you type it in your calculator, it should reduce it for you. To find B, you could set up a proportion that has B plus 5 over 6 is equal to, so I'm comparing it this way. So that's equal to 5 over 4. And then you set cross products equal to each other, so you get 30 is equal to 4 times B, I'll make it a capital, B plus 5. Then you get 4B is equal to 4B plus, I'm just trying to do too many steps together. So 4B plus 20 is equal to 30. And this isn't a very, I don't know, it's not the way you guys like to solve a proportion. So 4B is equal to 20. So then you get B is equal to 10, sorry. Is equal to 10. So then you get B is equal to 5 halves. Probably not the way you like to solve it. So that's why I just put these parallel lines right here. If you can visually have your parallel lines cut by your transversals, all you do is you have B over 2 is equal to 5 over 4, cross multiply and divide. So you have 10/4, which reduces down to 5 halves. I prefer to do this method right here instead of that over there. It's really how I choose to solve it. Kill him if you want.
I do about that. I just did a random, like, I just
Another one that I heard that you need help with.
I'm just gonna see if this, how my work today. Okay, so. All right, so I did that.
Yeah, so 34 is equal to this,
Yeah.
and then you subtracted 5 from that,
There you go.
and then divided by, or, yeah, that's okay if you do it that way too. Yep, that's the perfect way to do it. The only thing Wilson did was he set up his proportion of b plus 5 over 6 is equal to 5 over 4. So another way you could do it is you could just still, like, look at this part right here is cross multiply and divide. So if you cross multiply and divide, you get 34ths. And that's equal to what would be right here, which you like it to be a single variable, but it's not. It's b plus 5. So as a final step, you just subtract 5 from both sides. So you have 34ths minus 24ths, which is the same thing as 10/4, which reduces down to 5/2. That's a correct method, Wilson. That's just a third way yet you could solve the problem. Good job. Okay, what was another problem?
Number 12, please.
I do, because when you're doing that, you're trying to find corresponding sides, and I think it's easier if mine are facing the same way to know corresponding sides. That's my own personal preference. Because otherwise you're looking at this triangle here, this right triangle. Otherwise, you're looking at that and you're trying to say, okay, A corresponds to what in another triangle? Can you just glance at that and tell me? A corresponds to what in the medium triangle? No, B. A corresponds to B in the middle triangle. A corresponds to what in the large triangle? Nope. 20. So see, I think you guys are I think you would have a hard time doing it by not even putting them in the same position. My reference, I don't care which way you guys draw them, I always see this left-hand side triangle right there. So it has a right angle, and there's your tick mark. So I'm going to reference all of the other triangles in that same position. Now the thing is the other angle is a double tick mark. If two angles in one triangle equal two angles in the other, then the third ones have to be equal. So if you don't have a marked angle in your triangle here, I'm not putting the 90-degree angle right there for a reason, so we can kind of see the other two angles. This is going to be the double tick mark, and this will be a single tick mark in the medium triangle. In the large triangle, that's your 90-degree angle. So if you look at your small triangle, you have side lengths of A, H, and 8. If you look at the medium-sized triangle, between the right and the double tick mark is 12. Between the right and the single tick mark is H, and your hypotenuse is B. In your large triangle, so now in the large triangle, I'm not worried about these marks right here as individual small triangle angles. Now in your large triangle, here's your 90-degree angle. So between the single and the 90-degree angle is A. Between the double and the 90-degree angle is B. And your hypotenuse is 20. I think you'll be able to get corresponding parts better if you position them in the same spot. But maybe not.
Is there something we should practice those more?
Just go through lessons and find some. That's what I would do if I gave you some, is I just flip through lessons and find them. All right, so we set up the first one. A over 8 is equal to 20 over A, so therefore A squared is equal to 8 times 20, or 160, but you have to take the square root. 8 is 2 times 4, 20 is 4 times 5. You could say 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. You can, and then bring out your pairs of 2's, but instead of bringing out a couple pairs of 2's, I'm just going to bring out the 4. So you get 4 radical 10. But you could say 8 is the same thing as 2 times 2 times 2. 20 is 2 times 2 times 5. You have a pair of 2's here, and you have a pair of 2's here. So when you bring out both pairs of 2's, you get 4, and what you're left with underneath is radical 10. So you can still do prime factorization all the way across. Find another pair. What do you want now? H or B?
H.
H. So you go with the known value and your unknown. So you have H over 8 is equal to 12 over H. You cross multiply. H squared is equal to 8 times 12. If you want to put 96, that's fine, and then do prime factorization. So H is equal to the square root. 8 is 2 times 4. 12 is 4 times 3. You have a pair of 4's. So what is H equal to? 4 radical 6. Now you go to this last one, which is right there. So you have B over 12 is equal to 20 over B. Cross multiply. B squared is equal to 12 times 20. B is equal to the square root of 12 is 3 times 4. 20 is 4 times 5. You bring out your 4's. You're left with 3 and 5, which is 15. And you have your B value. Another one?
When you find the volume of the sphere,
Mm-hmm.
how do you multiply 4/3? Do you multiply that?
It's 4/3 pi r cubed. In this case, what is our radius? 10. Do you know what 10 cubed is? 1,000. So you have 4/3. I'm just going to put that 1,000 in front and pi. So that's the same thing as 1,000 over 1. So you're just going to end up with 4,000 pi over 3.
Yeah, I noticed they were like.
What number did you say that was?
That is part of 14. So surface area 4 pi r squared. So it's 4 pi times 10 squared. 10 squared is 100, so it's 4 times 100 times pi, which is 400 pi.
Wait, 4,000 divided by 3 is 4,188.
Is there a decimal value in the?
79.
There's 2 answers on your answer key, and it was because you finally get calculators. So some people were typing that out the year that I made. You can leave your answer in this format. Some people were calculating it, so I calculated the answer. There's 2 answers. One of them I used the pi key, which carries it out to more decimal places than 3.14. The other one I used 3.14, and that's why I have notes on those. So yeah, 3 goes into 4,000 at least 1,000 times. So that 1,000 whatever, yeah, that's where that comes from.
But it's like
Well, then you got to take it times 3 again. Somebody came up and they asked me about their answer, and they had it. They took 4,000 divided by 3 and wrote that as a decimal, which was 1,000 something, and then they put their pi key. Or pi symbol, not key. Pi symbol. So, yeah, when you go back and take this times 3, you're going to be a little over 4,000 because, well, times pi. Pi is approximately 3, a little more than that, and the 3 would cancel with pi. You have just you just have a little bit left over, so it's going to be a little bit greater than 4,000 when you calculate that. Yes.
You need 17, just like find
17, an equilateral triangle has a perimeter of 24 meters. So equilaterals, every single side is going to be congruent. So what is the length of each side? 8. So each side has a length of 8. Just for my own purposes here, that's not the one I want. And that's going to be the closest I can get. So each side has a length of 8. And they tell you that the area is equal to 16 radical 3. You could, that's one way you could do it. You could do Pythagorean theorem, because as you look at it, you have this triangle right here. And it's a right triangle. What's the base of that right triangle? 4. And you want to know the height. You could do Pythagorean theorem, where it's going to be a squared minus 4 squared is equal to h squared. So you're going to take the square root of 64 minus 16. You get the square root of 48, which is the square root of 16 times 3. 4 times 4 times 3. I went 4 times 12, and 12 is 4 times 3. You have a pair. Bring out your pair. And you get 4 radical 3. Another way you could do it is you could go to the formula, which says it's the base of 8 times the height divided by 2 is equal to 16 radical 3. Put this over 1, cross multiply. 8h is equal to 16 times 2, which is 32 radical 3, and then divide by 8. So your height is equal to 4 radical 3. There's the other way you could do it. I would have to tack units on there. I don't know what the units are. Meters. So put meters here and meters here. There's 2 ways you can solve that right there.
Okay.
I thought you threw the whole pencil.
It's a number in parentheses for negative 1 component. It's long, right?
Like where? Are you talking about number 6?
Yeah.
Or are you talking about number 9?
No, yeah, number 6. That's what I meant. 0 power.
Number 6, I've had several questions over this right here. Negative x to the 0 minus 4. And then we have plus 2. What you have to ask yourself is, what is the base? What is being raised to that 0 power? And I think that will help you out when you're trying to determine if it's going to be a negative or a positive 1. So if I look at this very first one here, 0, your base is just x. If I were to separate that and look at just this factor right there, you would say that negative is not in parentheses. So just this x to the 0, that has a value of 1, but you have that negative in front of it, coming down from right here. So -3 times quantity, -1 minus 4 plus 2. Now what's being raised to the power in this term is -x, and anything to that 0 power is 1. That's what has a value of 1, because the negative is in parentheses with the 0 outside of it. So that negative has become part of the base. Then that is equal to 7 times the quantity x. This is -9 and plus 16. So minus 25. You get -5 times -3, positive 15 plus 2. So you're going to end up with 17 is equal to, that's not 25. I think I said that earlier. But now you use the distributive property, you're going to get 7x. What's this give you when you group it together? Positive 7. So this becomes plus 49. So then subtract 49 and divide by 7. Which what? Is that 32? When you subtract 49?
Yeah, it's like 30, yeah.
Another question?
So you call this a cone, right? Or-
It says it's a cone, and I typed it out of the book, but I don't see a curved part to the base, so it should be a prism.
What is volume and surface area of a prism? Are we gonna have a question like that, Martin?
You want this, if it's on here, is what you got to study.
Would it be volume and surface area of a cone?
Volume and surface area of a cone, if you have of a cone, the only way you can find surface area of a cone is if it's a right circular cone. The base has to be a circle. And that lateral surface area is pi RL, where L stands for slant height. And it pi RL. Okay, pi RS, same thing. Yep. S is that slant height. If it's of a pyramid like this, then this is a pyramid. So you find the area of each face. So you're going to have individual triangles that you'd find. Area of the base. Both of these are area of the base times the height divided by 3. The area of the base is going to be a circle. And your height, though, Wilson, your height is like this pencil that I'm shoving up in here. That's the height. Don't go this way. So this one, the volume of the cone whose base, and I apologize, that should not say cone. I thought I typed it directly out of your book. Or from some type of a...
It's still the same thing, though.
Still the same, yeah, you're still going to be doing the same thing. Maybe I typed it directly off the test, who knows? I am on the right review that you have, correct? I got lots of reviews up here. Okay. So you want to find the volume of the cone. Volume of cone, area of the base, times the height, divided by 3. What's the area of the base? Well, this shape is going to be what? The rectangle is 21. What's the triangle's area? No, 6 times, oh, okay. You divided first. 21, so the area of the base is what? Area of the base is 42. What's the height of your cone? Why am I looking in the book? The height of the cone is 5, and you have to divide by 3. 3 does go into 42. 14 times. 14 times 5 is 70.
There's only like 4 of you.
4 what? Well, you have to know surface area and volume of the sphere. You've got to know volume of a cone, area of the sector, I don't know. What?
Yeah.
4 pi r squared. Any others you need to see? You get a calculator. Yeah, I should have had that. Okay, a question on 18. Okay, make sure I copied it correctly. I know that's 1 fraction. But the way I like to attack these problems like this, where you have the numbers and the variables involved, is I just work with the numbers separately. Those are all positive exponents, so calculate it. 5 squared is 25. 5 to the first is 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5. So in my answer, I'm going to have the number 5 involved. If I simplify, the next thing is to work with just the variables. If I simplify the numerator, you have a to the 4th, b to the negative 2nd. Denominator, you have a to the negative 3rd, b to the 2nd. That's the number 1.
Yeah.
But I just added the exponents. The way I look at it is I just say add my exponents. 0 plus 2 is 2. So then that took care of that. But if you want to put it as a coefficient, you can. Now you move these up, which is a to the positive 3rd, b to the negative 2nd, and when you group those together, you get a to the 7th, b to the negative 4th. Add that with your numerical part, and you have your answer.